Okay, we are live on brand new technology and everything, and it's working. Can't even believe it. So we are going to start in a few minutes. And tonight we're talking about Ewing. All very exciting stuff. All right. I see myself in a million different conversations here. Where's the slide deck?
Do you have it or not?
1 minute, folks, and we will go live and get started. Okay, it is 7:30 and it is time to get started. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. Tonight, again, we are taking on the microphone. That's not working. Every week. Okay, now it's working. That's the problem. I was just saying it would be really nice just to have a podcast studio, but like when you're running a small business, do you really want to burn rent on a space you use once every other week? And the answer right now is no. So that being said, tonight we are talking affordable housing, and we're talking about Ewing Township. Ewing Township successfully pushed back on the state housing mandate, and here's what that means. Here's why that matters. So we're going to break down what's going on with affordable housing in Ewing. This actually is coming as a direct request from one of our listeners/watchers, I should say. They said, can you tell us what's happening in Ewing affordable housing? And we said, of course, yes. So we're going to break down affordable housing in Ewing. So here's the numbers that have been thrown around: 319 units, 201 units, 99 other units. Like there's a lot of numbers get thrown around with affordable housing. And tonight we're going to explain what it means. And more importantly, if you're using Ewing resident or you're the owner in Ewing, we're going to talk about how this could impact development taxes in the town. So welcome back to the Wilton Report. I'm Josh Wilton. I co-own and run the #1 boutique agency here in central New Jersey. I have helped thousands of people buy and sell real estate, which has given me a front row seat to see how policy affects property, and more importantly, how it affects your biggest investment, your investment property. So why does this matter for real estate? So housing policy affects zoning, it affects density, affects land values, infrastructure, schools, property taxes, school capacity, transportation, all of this. Housing policy is probably one of the most important and maybe like most under watched part of the governmental process until, I don't want to say it's too late, but until they put a law in place, and then there's a lot of armchair generals running around saying, not in my neighborhood, or I don't like that. Meanwhile, they didn't go to any planning board meetings or anything like that. So tonight, we're going to start with a simple breakdown. Ewing affordable housing. There's 3 sets of numbers that you need to know, right? There was a proposed number by the state. There was the township's number. And there's the existing housing that you already had allocated towards affordable housing that needs rehabilitation. And the gap between the 319 the state said you have to have and the 201 that Ewing said that's all we can do based on the math, and they did it, I think, in my opinion, a great job on the math. That's where the tension is, right? And that's where the risk is for Ewing with the way this is all set up across the state. So let's talk about what affordable housing is and what's the affordable housing mandate. So again, in 1975, and I will say, right, the Mount Laurel Doctrine comes from the New Jersey Supreme Court ruling that requires towns to provide their fair share of affordable housing. Towns must provide, under the law, opportunity for affordable housing, meaning they don't have to build it themselves, but they have to allow it through zoning and development. So towns have a choice: build it themselves, go to the taxpayers, get the money from them, or partner with a developer, for lack of better description, let the developer do it, get some tax money from them, and have an allocation of that go towards affordable housing. The state assigns each town a number based on population, job growth, housing demand, vacant land. All these different categories go into the state on how they assign affordable housing. And again, there's two types of categories when we talk about affordable housing. There's what we call present need. Present need means there's homes in a municipality, and tonight we're talking about Ewing, that exist. And the township has to fix them up to bring them up to snuff, bring them up to standard. Prospective need, I think, is really where the tension is with the existing stakeholders in the town, the investors and the homeowners, because that's where the town has to build to be compliant with the law, new housing, new affordable housing. And that's where you'll see it on different threads on the internet, where people say, look, every time I turn around, there's a new apartment building going up in Germany. Well, this is a big part of why we are underbuilt, and we are moving towards trying to right that ship. But however, each town is trying to keep up with what's happening on the affordable housing end. So let's go over a few key terms before we dive in, because again, I've been talking about affordable housing for a while, right? However, people tend to really not what I'm talking about. So the first thing is prospective units. That's a number of new, keyword, new affordable homes a town is required to create the next housing cycle, which is 2025 through 2035. It's a 10-year cycle as dictated by the state, typically through new development or redevelopment projects. So West Windsor by the train station, Princeton by the shopping center, Hopewell right off 31, where Lennar is building all that new housing. Pennington is doing spot growth in the downtown. So prospective units, it's new units, and that's a source of a lot of the tension. Rehabilitation units refers to existing homes that must be repaired or upgraded to meet the affordable housing standards, not newly built. So I can say that there are municipalities, I think East Brunswick's one of them, they will buy existing condos, and then they will just take that condo, maybe bring it up to market standard, and they will allocate it towards affordable housing. So they're not building new, they're buying, right? And then keeping that unit as affordable housing. So some towns use that strategy. Some towns have had affordable housing available, and just maybe it's not up to snuff, so they have to bring it up to snuff. The last part of it is what we call inclusionary housing and zoning. So builders are required to include affordable homes in new development, meaning different price points should be built together in the same community if it's being built by a builder. Towns build an entirely 100% affordable housing structure in the town. They have that right. So that's happening in Princeton right now in a couple of spots. They're building 100% affordable housing. Cranberry is going to do the same thing. What is present need? So that's fixing existing units, not new construction. So according to the Ewing, there are 99 units that require rehabilitation. So typically these are older homes, like things need to be updated, right? The kitchens need to be updated. They are not maybe up to 2026 standards. So again, they are already counted towards the obligation. So what does that mean? It means that 99 units, when they bring it up to code, will count towards their overall affordable housing obligation. And sometimes towns can get money from grants and programs from the state to offset the cost of rehabilitating. But this is the part that we're going to talk about tonight, prospective need. So this is the part I think that people really in the state get hot about. This is the new stuff that gets built. Who builds it? Why is it being built? What type is it being built? Where is it being built? Like right now, like Princeton in the past month has been in the past week has been in the Washington Post, Realtor.com. All these different cycles of news have talked about Princeton because of affordable housing and the arguments that are happening within the town over it. Cranberry was in national news. They were trying to foreclose or use eminent domain to take a family's farm to build housing. This is a hot topic. So prospective need, again, refers to new affordable housing. So the state said Ewing needs 319 units. Ewing said, whoa, not so fast, completely unrealistic. So Ewing did their own math, and they recalculated based on actual land availability and landed at 201 units. So why this matters? Like, it's a third less. That's pretty impactful. So Ewing, I don't want to say fought the affordable housing mandate, but they looked at what the state said and said, there's no way. Part of what the state calculated is Ewing was the airport, right? Trenton Airport is in Ewing. The state said, well, that can't be redeveloped. And the mayor of Ewing, to the guy's credit, said, what are we going to do? Make people airport? It's not going to happen. Ewing has a fair amount of preserved land. The state used that in their calculation. Wittingly or unwittingly, they did, right? And Ewing said, what are we talking about here? This is preserved land. You can't build on it. And there are restricted properties that could not be built. So the 319 units that the state recommended included space that's just really not used. Airport, right? And again, Bert Steinman, who's the mayor, said, who's going to put affordable housing at the airport? And that's really a direct quote. So Ewing recalculated using actual usable land. And this is a big part of the thing where the state is going to dictate a number, and it's on the town to fight it and say, no. The analysis is incorrect, right? We can't do 319. We can do 201. So one of Ewing's biggest issues is simple. It's a highly developed municipality, has a college in it, right? It's an older town, meaning there's not a lot of land left. It's not like Hopewell, which is very rural and as such had a high affordable housing quota, right? It's not like West Windsor, which had a lot of undeveloped land around the train station and on Route 1. There's not a lot left to build on in Ewing. So that's a big problem, right? It's not a fast growth town. So where the units can't go again, there's farmland, airport land, state-owned land, environmental restrictions, stuff with wetlands, flood zones, et cetera. So the state had said there was 331.4 developable acres. Ewing fought that and said, absolutely not. So Ewing's housing plan, when you look at it, right, a lot of it's based around the College of New Jersey, which is now a fulcrum within Ewing. So if you drive in Ewing, right, the College of New Jersey built its own little downtown. It's got a yoga studio, it's got restaurants, it's got housing, it's got fast food places for the students and residents alike, not just the students. So you have Sullivan Way at the airport, right? And you have what looks like on paper that's feasible housing, but when you get into it, people can't live under airplanes coming in every day, literally like coming in every day at Trenton Airport. So the 300, the state number was not binding. It's a recommended number. So the towns can challenge the number, and Ewing did. So they did it and filed a resolution 25R and proposed a 201 units versus the state's 301. My understanding is that they are not fully approved yet. And here's the danger from the perspective of the state. If it doesn't get approved in time, the state says, no, we don't accept it, Ewing could be set up for builder remedy. And builder remedy is a lawsuit filed by a developer that sues the town for not meeting the affordable housing requirement, right? And then courts can override Ewing Township zoning, and you get a higher density, larger projects, faster approval, and basically Ewing could lose control over it. I don't think this is what's going to happen. So direct quote from Mayor Bert Steinman, meaning the number won't be an issue. We've avoided the kind of legal or rush development that happens when towns don't plan ahead. So Ewing's taking a very long approach to this, and they're saying, look, we're going to build affordable housing. We believe in affordable housing, but we're not going to build it in places where people just can't simply live. So there are projects in the pipeline. There's 60 to 65 units on Parkway Avenue. It's a lot of infill development, so they're just going after underutilized parcels of land, right? It's not like there's a massive subdivision that's going to pop up in Ewing like happened in West Windsor. They just don't have that level of land. So it's going to be a lot of smaller, spread out projects. Most are already planned, so they don't have a massive plan for these new housing things like Hopewell. Cranberry's going to have. Princeton's had a few, has the seminary development going on. So again, according to the Mayor Bert Steinman, we just don't have the space for major developments of 25 to 30 homes. They're built out. It's an older town in New Jersey, accessible to New York and Philly. So guess what? They're built out. So from the perspective of what's going to be built, it's going to be a part of multifamily housing. Again, the mayor said himself, single-family homes aren't going to happen here in large numbers. There's just not enough space to build it. Right? Now, I did hear an argument from a real estate person, a broker, who said, it is ironic that in 2026, the state's housing policy is being driven by a 1975 law, which is a fair argument. However, the law was appealed 4 times in the last 4 months. And the people that have been trying to fight this law have lost 4 times, right up to the Supreme Court, which was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So again, the units are going to be split by income level, right? So it's not like they're just going to build 201 units. They build it and they look at who's going to live in it, right? So there's what the state calls very low income, and those folks make less than 30% of the area median income, right? And those are the ones that builders still make money on because they're not collecting market rent. Low income, which is about 50% of the area median income, and there's moderate income up to 80% of the median income. So those are the people that can move into affordable housing. Now, last week we talked more about like Mercer County as a whole. People that are applying for affordable housing, they're making like $75,000 to $90,000 a year. But because housing is so expensive in New Jersey, they qualify affordable housing. So like nurses, firemen, and people like that, if they are single and they're not married, they can theoretically qualify for affordable housing. So 13% of Ewing's development will be low-income units. The remaining units will be between low and moderate. Senior housing is allowed, but it is capped under the state obligation. So again, I think most of it is going to be apartments and smaller pop-up developments throughout the town. So the one thing I will say, the mayor is very involved in Ewing Township. He's done a lot of interviews, and we should definitely invite him on here to chat with us. One of his concerns is, right, what's happening with the commercial market? Will that impact the homeowners in Ewing? Meaning, the commercial real estate market it's not in a stall, but it's not like robust in Ewing like it is on the Route 1 corridor in West Windsor around Princeton. So it's not as robust. Like the value of a commercial lease and a commercial building is probably on a downward shift in Ewing versus like the Route 1 corridor in West Windsor, or let's say West Windsor is the premium one with the accessibility to Princeton. So the mayor's saying, look, what's if the taxes shift from commercial residential, right? And is the new affordable housing going to put more of it on the residents of the town? And obviously, there's the infrastructure planning and development like that. So a lot goes into affordable housing. So Ewing, in my opinion, is trying to remain balanced, right? This is the balancing act every town in the state of New Jersey right now. If you forget about, you should just Google the Toms River Planning Board or meeting, or the mayor's meeting, the town council meeting. The mayor and the town council of Toms River, all the same political party, were literally swearing at each other in the meeting. Guess what the topic was? Affordable housing. People in the town that went to the meeting literally stood up, went to the mic and said, you guys are embarrassing. Like, you got to get it together. The topic that caused it, affordable housing. But it's just like, so the mayor of Toms River is saying, look, we got to get this done or we're going to be sued by builders. And the council's like trying to fight it. So tough gig, tough balancing act. Everybody's doing it, right? So again, I think Ewing is trying to meet the state requirements. They're definitely trying to avoid overdevelopment. I think they're protecting by spreading everything out, their overall infrastructure. And they're trying to maintain the community feel. So again, according to the mayor, they're trying to manage growth so it doesn't burden the town. It's been a very careful balance, and that's a very direct quote from Mayor Bert Steinem in Ewing Township. So again, what do you think? Should towns push back on the state numbers? Is 201 enough for Ewing? Is it not enough? If you're a Ewing resident, you want more or less development. Ewing's had a lot of development. They have the kind of building their own town center. There's a lot going on in Ewing. So I think it's a pretty exciting time to be there. However, right, when you add the affordable housing, I don't want to say confusion to the topic, people get pretty really emotional, right? They start swearing at each other in town council meetings, or they get articles in the Washington Post where a town council's son is worried about losing friends because their mom's on town council trying to manage the affordable housing mandate in that town. And that's an actual true story from the Washington Post article about a town council member here in Princeton. So if you have questions, I highly recommend you can put them in the chat. If you have comments or you want us to cover something in your town, obviously we will do that. So first question.
If you were a TCNJ student or parent, should you actually care about what's happening with affordable housing in Ewing? Does it have any effect?
So the question is, if you're a TCNJ student or parent, should you care about affordable housing in Ewing? Does it have any? That's a good question. Does it have impact? Well, yeah, I think it does. You know, when you look at Rutgers, let's take Rutgers as for example. Rutgers is a state university of New Jersey, right? And if you go to other state universities outside of New Jersey, they tend to be really beautiful, and they tend to be kind of beautiful towns. I'm not knocking New Brunswick. I'm not knocking anybody who lives there. However, the word beautiful and New Brunswick, I don't think are exactly synonymous. Why? I would say for housing planning, policy planning for housing. So should you care as an alumni of the TCNJ school network? Yes, because you want your college to thrive. The more your college thrives, the more your diplomas work. So ironically, right, when you think about the impact of housing, right, it does impact the overall reputation of the school. Is it safe? Can my kids go there? Can they go off campus? Right? I know TCNJ, it's had its share of issues, as every college has. But again, should they care? Yeah, they want their campus to shine. They want Ewing to, as a municipality to shine. So yes, I would say, yes, you want them to care. Any other questions? We wrap it up for the night. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Again, right, we do cover a lot on affordable housing. If you do have another policy topic you'd like to see us talk about, you can always reach out to the channel and let us know. And you can always follow us on Instagram. But again, the main takeaway is this from tonight. Ewing, I don't think made an attempt to stop affordable housing. I just think they used really smart policy choices and a very good strategy to control how much gets built and where it gets built. So again, if you're curious as to how your town's handling the affordable housing mandate, drop a comment. If we've already covered it, we'll send you the link to that episode. If we haven't, we will. And as always, thank you for tuning in. I'm Josh Wilton. This is the Report, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.